From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us on your Monday. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Well, tonight, another warning from health officials as a new mutation of the COVID-19 virus inches closer to our state. The CDC says emerging variants of the coronavirus are now found in our neighboring states of Colorado, Washington, Oregon, and Minnesota. But first, Yellowstone County health leaders a bit more pleased this week as the county receives 2,500 first doses of COVID-19 vaccine. Both Billings Clinic and St. Vincent received 975 doses and Riverstone 200. No walk-in COVID-19 vaccinations are being given, so to make an appointment, go to this story at KTVQ.com. And even if you've been vaccinated against COVID-19, health experts say you are not immune to a more contagious mutation of the virus. But as Q2's Andrea Lutz reports, pathologists at Billings Clinic are already on high alert to track it.
And we could see another spike in cases.
As cases of the COVID-19 variant close in on Montana, pathologists are actively looking for it. Billings Clinic recently started using a new testing system called TAMPA, yielding results in as little as 24 hours, but also helping to identify a new strain.
Maybe about a month ago or so that the strain became more prevalent.
Dr. Christina Cavrin says while there's been no positive cases of the United Kingdom variant yet in Montana, their lab has already sent a dozen tests to the state to get further analysis.
Any test that you get for COVID will include us looking for this variant.
Most people have no idea if they have the variant because symptoms are relatively the same. But there's one very alarming difference.
What the difference is with this UK variant is just that it's more transmissible, it's more contagious.
The CDC says sometimes new variants emerge and disappear. Other times, new variants emerge and persist.
What we want people to know is just to continue with those precautions, even if you've received the vaccine, even if you've already had COVID before.
And for a timeline on when Montana could see the variant?
We were a little bit behind the rest of the country, but once it gets here, it's so contagious, I think that it could really take off. It's probably just a matter of time.
In Billings, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
All right, thanks so much, Andrea. Now, the United Kingdom variant spreads more easily, as she said, and more quickly than the other variants. In January of 2021, experts in the UK reported this variant may be associated with an increased risk of death compared to other variant viruses. Well, Montana's death toll from the virus now sits at 1,232 after 4 additional deaths reported in the last 24 hours. One of those here in Yellowstone County and 3 out of Missoula County. There are nearly 3,500 active cases in the state with recoveries nearing 90,000. Well, today in Helena, the Montana House endorsed a bill meant to protect businesses and others against so-called frivolous lawsuits seeking damages related to COVID-19. Well, the House voted largely along party lines, with Republicans in favor to advance the bill on a 66-33 vote. The bill says anyone suing for damages related to infections from COVID-19 must prove gross negligence, which is a higher standard for a plaintiff in a civil suit. Supporters say the bill is needed to encourage businesses to stay open or reopen without fear of getting sued. Opponents, most of whom were Democrats, say the bill lets businesses evade responsibility for creating a safe workplace for employees. Republican Governor Greg Gianforte says he'll lift the statewide mask mandate once the bill becomes law. Now, the bill faces a final vote tomorrow before advancing to one last vote in the Senate. Well, 2 Helena brothers accused of taking part in the Capitol riots are headed back to Washington, D.C. Joshua and Jared Hughes, each facing 9 charges, made their initial appearance in federal court in Great Falls this morning. A magistrate judge ordered the 2 detained pending transfer and further court proceedings. Prosecutors say the men were among the first 10 rioters to enter the Capitol in one part of the building, and were allegedly part of the mob that confronted Capitol Police Officer Eugene Goodman in one of the most widely shared videos from the riot. Goodman has been called a hero for luring the mob away from the Senate floor while lawmakers were still evacuating. And the results are in on a recent downtown Billings traffic survey. Drivers weighed in on possible changes like eliminating many of the one-way streets to make them 2 ways. Q2's Mitch Slade joins us from downtown Billings with details.
I'm standing here at the corner of 2nd Avenue North and North 28th Street in downtown Billings, two of the streets that traffic engineers considered in a study to convert from one-way to two-way. Local engineers with the city and Dowell conducted an online survey and received 2,300 users who completed 415 total surveys. The general theme is that about 60% of people were in favor of changing roads in downtown Billings from one-way to two-way. On 2nd and 3rd Avenues North, 65% wanted to see changes to two-way traffic. And in the north-south direction, 61% were in favor of two-way conversion on a majority of the north-south routes pictured here in green. Engineers also looked at the possibility of adding a bike lane to Montana Avenue and reducing traffic to 2 lanes for certain sections of the street. 60% of those surveyed were in favor of the Montana Avenue bike lane. Now, the study was started in June 2019 and cost the city $50,000, 60% of which was paid for with the help of a federal grant. Now, tonight, the Billings City Council will see the results of the downtown traffic study. Now, keep in mind that that study did not take into account any cost estimates for construction. Reporting in Billings, Mitch Slade, MTN News.
All right, thanks so much, Mitch. Now you can view the study for yourself in the links in this story at KTVQ.com. Well, the University of Montana brought its 46th annual Economic Outlook Seminar to Billings this morning. This year's focus is on the COVID-19 pandemic and the impact on the state's economy. Now, data from the Business Research Center shows that employment growth in the state in 2020 fell off a cliff.
We had 3.5% decline in jobs in Montana in 2020. And mind you, that is a combination of double-digit declines in the spring, followed by nearly double-digit increases in the fall. On net, a large decline. What do we expect in the future? Well, we expect there to be a pretty strong bounce back.
Barkey says women have been affected most in terms of unemployment. In February 2019, women accounted for roughly 20% of unemployment claims. That number jumped to 60% in April and May of 2020. In January of 2021, those numbers started to normalize, but are still at historical highs. Barkey says some of the sectors in Montana that account for the most jobs lost include accommodations and food, which reports more than 14,000 jobs lost, retail with more than 4,000 jobs lost, and healthcare just over 3,000 jobs lost. Well, a bill meant to increase the starting salary of new teachers in Montana was overwhelmingly endorsed today by the Montana House. The House voted 97-3 for the bill, which is part of Governor Greg Gianforte's agenda. The bill would increase state payments to school districts that agree to increase the starting pay for beginning teachers in their first 3 years on the job. Now, base pay for starting teachers would have to be at least $34,000 a year, or in larger school districts, at least 70% of their median teacher pay. The bill's sponsor, Republican Representative Lou Jones of Conrad, says Montana's median teacher pay is in the middle among the states, but that we are dead last when it comes to starting teacher pay. He says the bill, however, leaves the choice to local districts and salary negotiators.
Nothing dictatorial about this bill, just an incentive package to incentivize an increase in the beginning teacher pay. Thus, hopefully, more folks will enter the teaching field, and those that do enter the teaching field will stay in Montana.
Now, the bill now heads to the House Appropriations Committee, where members will figure out how the $3 million a year proposal will fit into the overall state budget. And the winner of Super Bowl 55 will be, well, according to Sid the Wolverine at Zoo, Montana, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will win the big game. Sid, as you just saw, came out to predict the winner with so much enthusiasm. His first Super Bowl prediction following the retirement of Ozzie the Grizzly Bear. Now, Sid made that scientific prediction by choosing between two pâtés, both made of a delicious, I use loosely, meat mixture. Tampa Bay plays Kansas City for the Super Bowl title on Sunday, February 7th, and that is right here on Q2. Well, up next on tonight's MTN 530 News on Q2, we'll let you know how one of President Biden's first orders will impact Montana.
First day of February, but temperatures 57 was the official high at the airport. Did report of some low 60s as well. No new precipitation to add, but that change in the weather we've been talking about, we're still talking about it in a few minutes.